Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. No mai, haere mai ki wharatoi ko Mary-Lyn aho. My name is Mary-Lyn Chambers. I'm a drama writer, director. I grew up in Wellington and I spent 2 decades in Los Angeles, and I returned home during COVID. So I've been here for about 3 years. So I am also learning the industry by your side. While in Los Angeles, I spent the first decade working as the associate producer for the Independent Spirit Awards. It's the Oscars of independent film. And then I cut my teeth on the independent film industry in film festivals for the LA Film Festival, Denver Film Festival, and the Doha Tribeca Film Festival in the Middle East. I spent the second 10 years doing what I actually moved to LA for, and that was to make films. So I've created a body of work, was in some talent development programs, including the Sony Diverse Directors Program, Film Independent, and a couple of other ones. And when COVID hit, I was driving my career towards series as a writer and director, and then COVID hit, my mother passed away, and I returned home to Aotearoa, so I call Aotearoa home. So welcome creatives. We are recording this, so these microphones are not being used to amplify, so if it seems weird that you can hear me and I'm talking into a mic, I just wanted to explain that. These are the kinds of things that irritate me when I'm at panels, and I'd like to know what's going on. So welcome creatives. A little bit about how, before I have our guests introduce themselves, a little bit about how today will flow. Our guests will introduce themselves. We will do a korero for about an hour, and then we will open it up to Q&A. Please wait for the microphone when we get to the Q&A part, so we capture your questions. And then at the end of the Q&A, when we wrap it up, we will break for a tea break and some socializing time where you can socialize with each other and say hello to some of our guests if you would like. And then the goal is to wrap up at 3 p.m. So without further ado, kia ora Steve, RickyLee, and Jani. Welcome to Depot Art Space. Wharitoi is a place where we do a lot of our education and creative workshops, and we also have an art gallery and a music recording studio on the other side of town. So Depot Art Space is a very established arts institution in Devonport, so welcome. So yeah, I think we'll just run down the line if you like, and if you would kindly introduce yourselves and start with Steve.
Kia ora koutou, ko Steve Barr toko ingoa. I've been in Aotearoa since 2010. My wife got invited to come here to study at the veterinary school, which is one of the best in the world. And we were supposed to be here for 5 years. And then we could go back to Los Angeles where I was working, and I would get back into the Hollywood system. She could sell horse tranquilizers to Lindsay Lohan. That was the business plan, but we fell in love with New Zealand, so we've been sticking around since then. And I've had a bunch of different careers in this general industry, and we're talking about pivoting about careers today, so I'll be very happy to talk about all that stuff. RickyLee?
Tēnā tātou, tōtai mihi ki te mana whenua o tēnei rohe ko Ngāti Whātua, ki te kaihautu o te kaupapa, tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, ki a koutou katoa, ko huhu mai tēnei rā, tēnā koutou katoa, ko wai aho, ko RickyLee Russell-Waipuka, tōku ingoa, heuri tēnei no Ngāti Raukawa, me Ngāti Kahungunu. So I hail from the tribal lands of the Wairarapa, which is down south, as well as Otaki on my mother's side. And my background started in the performing arts space, and that just gradually sort of pushed me into more of the production side of things. So I've been now producing for the last 5 years with a company called Sweetshop Green, which is also Catherine's. I work with Catherine's sister called Charlene. And so I've just been asked to come here to have a little korero about where I began, the different types of roles, and I guess the same thing in a different way, pivoting more into a production space and what I'm up to now. So kia ora, thank you for the invite. You got one?
Hi everyone, my name is Jani Alexander. As you can hear from my accent, I'm not originally from New Zealand. I grew up in communist Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic. And yeah, I think I never imagined that one day I would be living in New Zealand and working in television. My background is I actually didn't study anything, connected to media. I studied social work and then I work in banking and as a broker. And it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, 30, probably early midlife crisis, I decided I want to do something different. When I was living in London, and I basically I thought production would be fun. So I worked on a couple of short films and then worked for the UK Film Council. Before 20 years ago, I moved to New Zealand, and sort of my first job I landed was in television, and I have been doing it ever since. I work for Greenstone TV as a factual TV producer. Some of the shows you will probably know, it will be sort of series like Dog Squad or Border Patrol, and also I work on lots of documentaries. And at the moment, I'm just working on current series of Border Patrol and on documentary for TVNZ about child sexual exploitation. Yeah, thank you.
Kia ora. And Greenstone just celebrated its 30-year anniversary. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
It's an all-female run company. That's an incredible achievement. And Sweetshop is also a Māori Pacifica Wahine-led company, right? Incredible. Okay, cool. Sorry to leave you out on that one. Do you have anything you want to add? No?
I'm the token on this panel. I get it.
You are our diversity.
I'm the diversity hire.
You are the diversity hire. All right. Well, welcome.
Can I say one thing? I have a small role in a television comedy where they needed a crazy old man in the woods. So that's why all this is this. I feel very unkempt to be sitting in front of all of you right now, so I wanted to apologize for this. Yeah.
You look great.
Yeah, you look great.
You
just need an AK-47 and you'd have that look suited. So I tried to do a rough count of all the things you're working on, but I couldn't because it's really hard to get a sense of people's filmography. But it looks like collectively you've worked on 50 to 100, if not more, films and series between you. You work with hundreds, if not thousands of people who have jobs. So let's get into it. There are a lot of jobs in this industry beyond the ones that we hear about the most: writer, director, producer. We have creatives here that have just graduated from university looking for their first job or two. We have people who are in mid-career phase who might be looking for jobs in the industry at a mid-career stage. And we have people that are very established in the industry, and some are not looking for jobs. Some are, like me, peddling my own projects and hoping things are going to, get funded and my big ship comes in. And so some of us are sort of looking toward the industry with our own projects. So we are a wide group. Is there anyone here not in the industry at all? Oh, great. One. Cool.
Welcome.
Welcome, yeah. We will hopefully convert you by the end of the day. So let's put our heads on for those who have just graduated and they're looking for their first and second jobs. There are lots of pathways toward success. I think of script supervision, for one, is a great pathway toward directing. And so, yeah, if you could, I'll start with you, Steve, but I will shake up the order a little bit. You work for TVNZ as a commissioner, so these jobs there. I know they're laying off at the moment, so it's not a great example. But I don't know. What are some pathways you think into the industry for those who have just recently graduated?
Sure. I think there's an early decision to make, which is, do you want your money day job to be inside the industry, outside of the industry? Because you can argue that going and getting a gig, working in a warehouse, driving a forklift or something, if you want to be a writer, director, producer, or actor, if it gives you some flexibility, you're good, because actually you're not engaging the same part of your brain all day. So when you get home, you can be working on your art in a way that You know, I have a friend who he's written 25, 26 produced movies, and they're all like Steven Seagal after he got fat movies. But like the first 5 or 6, he kept his warehouse job because all day he would be thinking of stories, and so when he gets home at night, he's just typing. You know, and so there's a thing to do that, or you can get your mortgage-making job, your rent-paying job in the business. Because with the influx of movies and television shows from the UK and from the US, they paid pretty well if you can get those gigs, and they're actually more regular and reliable than the artistic above-the-line type jobs, crew jobs. If you want to make a living, learn how cameras work and how to carry sandbags. Don't do what I do and make up shit and hope that someone wants to pay you for it. But you can pursue all those angles all the time to give you the space you need and the brain space you need to be doing the creative work that you want to do.
Right, thank you. RickyLee?
So Charlene and I recently went to South Seas to present a couple of our projects that we have completed over the past 3 years. And then it was just kind of like this, just having a bit of a korero chit-chat about the types of projects that we were working on. And at the end of that conversation, in collaboration with the students and the teachers, they suggested that instead of doing sort of cold meets, cold emails, and individual, that since we had met everyone there at that sort of presentation, that they would put all of their what they were interested in, like this different sort of departments that they were interested in getting into, and putting it in a group sort of a collective instead of just an individual, because for people who are on the receiving end getting multiple emails a day, cold emails, and not really being able to make that connection, it's not like they're discarded, they're not, but it does make it hard to have that sort of relationship. And it just made sense that that we could have a sort of, I guess we kind of made like a Google Sheet, Google Drive, and we kind of worked like that out. And it was just so much easier to make that connection. So yeah, I mean, if you're part of a collective, I would say that that's a really good approach at meeting or sort of approaching production companies or producers. If you have a slate of ideas that you're really passionate about and keen to get advice, a bit of steer on what you're wanting to do, or even if you're wanting to meet other creatives, filmmakers in your sort of wheelhouse. The other sort of advice I would say is there are so many film festivals and sort of networking guilds put on these events all the time, and it's really easy. All you have to do is go onto the websites and then you just subscribe to their newsletter, and then that goes out weekly, monthly, and it all depends on if it's the writers or editing or whatever, but it'll give you an idea of the types of events that are coming up in the near future. And my best advice is to get to those events, because that's where broadcasters are, producers and filmmakers like yourself, where you can actually kanohi, say kia ora, hi, I'm this person, and then it's so much easier if you do have an idea, whether it's just concept or if you've got a script, if you've got a team. That would probably be my best advice on sort of just how to get your foot in the door at least.
That's great. Just to add on that about the guilds, there are incredible guilds here. If you can't afford their membership fees, because some of them are pretty high, it seems like all of them let you go to these events on a one-off basis for a really affordable amount. And I concur, they are really, really important. And there's also Auckland Table Reads, which is where you and I met, and you can sit in there for free and listen to people, actors read scripts of writers while we're developing our work. It's a great way to build community. Kia ora. Jani.
Well, I can probably just maybe offer advice sort of from production side, you know, like television, it's slightly different to drama and stuff, writing. I don't think it's necessary to have a background like in media, you know, I didn't. I just thought that production would be fun because it's sort of, I like organizing and doing stuff, but also I like the creative side. And so then I just, you know, got into it, and I guess I was really lucky meeting the right people at the right time. Sometimes that's very important too. And then I think, you know, we have people in our office, you know, starting as assistants, they didn't go to South Seas or media school, but they are just really, really passionate. I think it's maybe easy a little bit for younger people these days because you can so easily film and do stuff on your phone. There are tools that you can have that even you can cut stuff together and put like a little show reel and sort of show what you can do. When you are starting, you know, I wasn't sure what I want to do. Do I want to direct, or do I want to produce, or do I want to be line producer and work budget, or just I did kind of a little bit of everything. And so you can slowly decide. And I think, like, for example, in our company, we are very supportive of, you know, our young people. They are amazing. They, you know, have full-time job, and they just then go home and they just hustle and they do together stuff, and they write and they do a little short movie and they go to stuff and they network. So just keep doing that. If you know, want to apply for jobs somewhere, don't just send CV, pester us. Just say, hey, can I just pop in and can I have like 5 minutes on your time? Because that way, you know, I will remember you, and I go, you just click, you know, and sometimes it's just all about that CV. I mean, it might look great, but I just don't know anything about you. So just come in for 5 minutes or say, can we go and grab coffee anytime? You know, you're busy, but I will make time. And then we can just have a chat about what you want to do. And just, you know, if we say, I can't this week, just call me, you know, email me next week. How about, is it better? And stuff. Then I go, oh, okay, they're pretty keen. They are serious about it. And then you remember the name. And then when something comes up and you are looking somebody, even just for one day for job, something little, you go, oh, you know what, that person, I have their email, give them a call, they were really keen, I really like them. Yeah, that's kind of my advice, maybe just try to get in.
There's such a cliche in this business of it's not what you know, it's who you know, which isn't really true, but there's a reason why it became a cliche. Who you know gets you in the door, what you know is what keeps you in there. It's such, we've made the terrible decision to work in the most expensive art form that humanity has ever invented. And yet it's got subjective outcomes. So you can't objectively say that that movie is better than that television show. People's taste matters. And so your taste matters of who you're going to work with and the vibe check that you have. So that's why face-to-face is so important, why they have all these kind of awkward, networky sort of things to see who you vibe with. You need to find the people who share your taste and your goals, who have different skill sets than you. Because if everybody has the same skill set, you're just going to be in a little circle with each other. But you need people who like the same stuff that you like and want to make cool stuff, but can do stuff that you can't. And the stuff that is easy to you is hard for them, and the stuff that's easy for them is hard for you.
And what's great about that is we talk a lot about networking, which is the word that I really try to erase from our vocabulary and just call it making friends. Because I think when we are working on a film on a weekend with a mate or a writing collaborator or whatever it is we're doing, you are actually building your community, and you will, trust me, I know this, I've been around long enough that my interns who I brought in many years ago now hire me for projects. It really is true. So yeah, just make friends. That's what today is about. We're just making friends. Don't put any pressure on, you know, making sure that Steve reads your script or, you know, any of that heavy-handed stuff. That's not going to happen. It's just make friends. Just chill out about that. Going back to you, Jani, because you pivoted careers, and we do have some people in our cohort that have worked in the corporate sector or another world. I know you said you were lucky enough to meet people, but if you can recall how you use the skills and mindsets and experience from another career in order to pivot into the film industry. In some ways, I think the film industry is easy to do that. But how did you meet that person that opened that door, or people, and how did you organize your thoughts about how you presented yourself?
I just did maybe tell you the background, how it happened, so obviously English is my second language. I never studied English at school, so when I moved to London, I kind of have to pick it up. So I had to do various jobs and, improve my English. And at the time, I was working at an English language school as the manager there. And just, kind of I was deciding what I want to do. Obviously, it was in my previous career. And so I, luckily, at the time I have, a husband who was supportive, and we agreed that, I will get 6 months and sort of try to find a job in the industry. And on the last week of my job, I was organizing accommodation for international students. A lady came in and we just talked, and she said, I can't wait, looking forward to working with you. And I said, well, this is my last week, and what do you want to do? I said, I want to get into the industry. She said, send me your CV. I work at, I'm the PR person for UK Film Council. I sent her CV. She offered me 1 week temping job. And sort of, I worked really hard, and just everybody was also so lovely and stuff, but I was so green. I knew nothing. But, I just like her hard. And then after the week, she said, I have 2 positions coming. Which one would you like? So very, really lucky. I think it's just kind of, being just kind of, go out there. I think, big advice is like, keep asking questions. There is no, and I say it to my, people, they come starting, there is no such a thing as a dumb question. Just keep asking, I keep asking, my colleagues, just keep asking, want to learn. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got into it, yes.
It's great, and it's a natural progression. We hear that all the time. We just communicated what we wanted, and then a temp job opened up, you rocked it, and then they brought you forward. It's kind of not rocket science sometimes, but
I was probably lucky and stuff, but on the same time, I was then trying to meet people, and then I said, we want to make short film. I go, oh, excellent, what do you need, so I can organize stuff. That's what I do, and then that's kind of probably when production, organizing, sorting stuff out, and then you go, oh, actually, I would like a little bit of that.
Good.
Yeah.
And be okay with not knowing. When you are green at the beginning, and it's okay, and we know that that newbies are green. So cut yourself some slack around that. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I will just say something like on the back of it, because I had a pretty similar sort of experience. So I'd been acting for about 10 years, and it was just at the rep party that I was talking to the DOP, and he was saying, so what's next for you? And I was like, I don't know. I never really have a plan. I just kind of think about something, whatever comes my way, I just jump on board, and it's worked out so far. But I did say to him that night, if I ever had the opportunity to jump into production, I would love to learn about it, because I'm noticing a lot more what's going on behind the scenes than I ever have before as an actor. Prior to, it would just kind of rock up, get your makeup done, do your wardrobe, and then you'd do your scene, and then you'd, take off, and that would be it. But I had noticed that I was starting to pay a lot more attention to just the logistics, more of the call sheets that were coming out. I was paying a lot more attention than I ever had. And it was about maybe 2 months later after that, I was doing a theatre show. I was about to jump on stage, and I got a call from that same DOP. He said, hey, so I got like 2 minutes, and I'm about to jump on a plane to Europe, but so how you told me you were interested in learning about production? Well, I got this funding. I know this person. I think you'd be great for it. Here's their number. Here's their name. Give them a call. Let me know how it goes. And I was just like, what? And then they're like, call time, jumping on stage. And so I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, yep, save the number, save it for afterwards. Came back to that. Did the mistake of Googling who the person was, and then I looked on LinkedIn, and then I was like, holy shit, global executive producer, and I was like freaking out. Like, what? I was like, I'm not a producer, I'm an actor, I don't know anything. But I was just like, yeah, no, okay, I trust him. He wouldn't have lined this up if he didn't, see something in it. So I sent her a text, and then gave her a call, and she was like, oh, I've been waiting for your call. And I was like, what? And that was Charlene George, and she invited me to come for a coffee. I don't drink coffee, but I just said yes, at the office, and we had a quick chat, and she basically said to me, so what do you know about producing or about production? And I was like, well, I do know that, you know, you got to have a lot of kai because nobody likes to work when they're hangry. True. And I said, and a box of beers goes a long way.
That's great.
She just cracked up laughing, and she said, you know, most people that come for these types of content, they're like spreadsheets, budgets, you know, all of that. And she's like, but I love that. That's great. And that's how our conversation started. I did a 2-month placement with her commercials company. And then after that, I was offered a 1-year contract, and I've been there for 5 years now.
Oh, incredible story.
Yeah, that's...
and just being yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's what won the day. Did you have anything to add on this, or should
I think there's a... take everything I say with a grain of salt, because I'm American. I came up in a very different culture where... you know, here the tall poppy gets cut off. In America, we're taught from birth that the tallest poppy makes the best heroine. So we're all trying to elbow our way to the front of the thing. So I'm comfortable with that kind of behavior, but that's often rude here. I think I get away with it because the accent that I have. But you still need to, within the context of the culture that you're comfortable with, letting people know what you want in a clear way is so important. Because I think a lot of times people show up and they sort of hint at a thing that might be okay for them at some point in the future, if that was okay, please, instead of saying, hi, I'm really interested in this. Yeah. All right?
Yeah.
And they might come back with something and they might not, but if you don't let people know what you want, they have no way of giving it to you. And so finding a way that's not arrogant and not pushy, but is clear about these are the things I'm interested in right now. Is there anything I can do to help you? The better off you're going to be.
And don't get me wrong, you have to work your butt off. It's not all chit-chat, you know, at the beginning. If you really want something, you'll go over and beyond, especially those first couple of months. Like, those are vital.
Yeah.
Just piggybacking on being clear and communicating, so I think I failed to mention that I also work with the ArtsLab team as an industry liaison, and I work with a lot of the creatives there who are looking for work, and it's the ones that are very clear and very specific that I can help the most. So it's okay to be like at a place where I just want to feel things. Jani talked about that earlier in her career. I want to feel out certain roles and find my place. But that's clear communication. You know, film sets are great for that. Production offices are great for that. But if you do start getting clearer on what you want, it can be really great. And know your craft too. If you're like, oh, I want to be a cinematographer, and I ask you, well, who's your favorite cinematographer, and you don't have an answer for that, then it's like you've got a bit more growing to do to get clearer on that. So yeah, clear communication. Wonderful. I guess RickyLee, one thing I love about you is that you are a working actor and an executive. We do have some actors. We actually have a lot of people who are multi-hyphenates. I think you are an example of this. Totally, I know, it's ridiculous. And some of you may recognize RickyLee from Taika Waititi's Boy. So how do you balance being an actor and being an executive? Because we have people that are actors here that kind of really struggle about getting a full-time job, thinking they have to give up being an actor.
Yeah, it's definitely all about your communication, really. For me, we pretty much look at our year at the end of the previous year, and then so, I mean, for those of you who act, you're pretty aware that the opportunities come up hard and fast, and so it's. How I've managed to balance it is once I get approached about a role, I usually have just a really brief conversation with my boss and just say, look, I've been approached about this role. these are the potential shoot dates that they've got penciled in. We'll look at it in regards to what we have going on for our company, and sometimes we can see that there are immediate clashes, and sometimes it's completely open. Like we'll be in months of development at the time that a shoot. So, in those times, it's really manageable for me. When it comes to like potentially if we're shooting or something like that, that's when it gets a bit tricky. But everyone who knows production is. Schedules change constantly, so off the bat it may not look like it's going to work out, but yeah, things are always shifting. That's why you get a really good agent as well.
And you're in the same boat, right, Steve? You're a writer and an actor, stand-up comic. And could you do all of that while you were a commissioner at TVNZ?
No, well, I could do the stand-up because there's no conflict of interest there, because it's just you and a microphone. But I came up through, I got a degree in acting in Los Angeles. I very quickly learned I'm an average white man, and there were lots of me. And so I transitioned into writing and then producing. One of the things I love about the New Zealand system is in opposition to the Los Angeles system, there are so many people competing that there's a Darwinian process of making sure you specialize. And here you can't make a living if you're too specialized. You need to be able to do lots and lots of things, as look at our job titles here. And so, when I was at TVNZ, first of all, I was working 50 or 60 hours a week, so that kind of killed a lot of stuff. But also, if ever here's an example. I wrote a screenplay that I really like, but 2 of the top 3 characters are Maori, which I'm not. And so I would have to be a Maori producer, Maori director attached to this. And all of the Maori producers and directors in this country that could command a budget about what this project needed to be were pitching stuff to me at TVNZ. So that would get weird. That would be wrong. So I had to stick that aside for a couple of years until I left in November, so it's now out in the world. There's constant sort of juggling. I think you'll find working in this industry that there are lots and lots of spicy brain people, various on the autism spectrum, ADHD, all that sort of stuff. It sort of attracts a lot of us. I'm a vanilla brain, but I've become spicy brain in my behaviors, because you have to be a little bit, ooh, this and then that and then that and then that and then and that's why Los Angeles invented cocaine, but we don't have that so much here.
There's lots of talk of drugs in all
Yeah, sorry. It turns out I'm just trying to keep everybody interested. I am not a dealer. I don't have access. I'm sorry. So there is a certain amount of bouncing around, and having clarity with your various collaborators and the stakeholders of the things you're working on. You do not want them to find out the day of, oh, sorry, I can't be here today because I'm doing this other thing. That's really unfair for everybody. So just trying to figure out as far ahead of time as you can what's up, what are the things, what are the obligations that you're on, and try not to overbook too much.
Also, the industry is very small, so if you don't tell them, they're going to find out through somebody.
Exactly right.
Oh, very true, very true. All right. Getting back to jobs. There are new roles like intimacy coordinators, accessibility coordinators. I know the Film Commission has put some financial resources behind accessibility coordinators. I'm wondering if maybe you can tackle this one, Jani. Are you embracing that role? Is that a line item in your budget? Where is that at?
Well, budgets, yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I think in New Zealand, budgets are probably 1/3 of what they are everywhere else in the world, like Australia, the US. I think it's kind of kudos to people who work in the industry, to their talent and hard work, that we actually make the shows as good as they do overseas, with much bigger budgets, like the same shows, kind of, when you look at it. Yes, we have culture advisors, like in our budget now. Not every project obviously needs them, so it really depends on what you do. Like in our shows, when we do Origins, obviously that was absolutely necessary, but then let's say on shows like Dog Squad on Border Patrol, I probably wouldn't need somebody like that. It's just really project dependent. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, and sort of the stuff I work on, I have very, very skeletal crew and production team, yeah, I think, it just kind of makes me laugh when I sometimes see credits on the same show overseas, and just like, they just keep rolling, right? There are so many people and stuff, and then I go, oh, it's like 3 of us.
Yeah.
And then I have, then I get eventually the editor and post director, and then there is the crew. And, on shows like Border Patrol, that's just, we call them OPC one-person crew. It's just the one person who does, obviously, the camera, the sound. They have to be kind of producing on the ground. They have to be directing themselves, and they have to be working with the agencies, kind of like the other PA, and they have to schmooze, and they do all of that, and they are incredible. Yes, so it's hard job and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if I kind of answer your question.
Yeah, so it makes it really challenging when you want to do the right thing and have an accessibility coordinator. It's probably not always feasible to pay when you've got other jobs that absolutely have to happen and they're equally important, right? So I guess it's a growth thing. So yes, you did answer the question. So we do have a couple of our creatives who are interested in becoming cultural advisors. And I know that you work with First Nation films, and some of our creatives come from historically excluded communities and are interested in developing the side of themselves so that they can become more nimble in the job place, not just in film, but also in other sectors. So I'm curious how it happened for you that you became a cultural advisor on First Nation projects, and any advice you have for those who want to do the same.
Yeah, cool. Also, I grew up in kura kaupapa, kohanga, kura kaupapa, all of that. So just basically my world, that was my world that I was brought up with. Te reo was my first language, and then I moved into English mainstream, and then that sort of just kind of took off after leaving high school. When I first joined Sweetshop Green, all of the projects that actually were attracted to Charlene and myself were either Pacifica films or television concepts, or they were kaupapa Māori. And that was, I would say, that was just because of who we were. Charlene is a Pacific woman, and I am a wahine Māori. So naturally, that just attracted those our communities. And so how we worked it out is just like Jani said, every project is individual and it requires different levels of care and considerations. For example, we have a children's program, Bird's Eye View, which actually won our Children's Program of the Year in 2022, which we're super proud of, and in production for season 2 at the moment. But that one there the concept wasn't created to be a kaupapa Māori project. However, we still had native manu, which for our culture, there's different birds that represent different meanings, and we also there was a few kupu Māori in the script, but it wasn't the focus. However, that still needed a bit of attention, so there was a line in the budget to oversee those things. As with currently we're developing a historical scripted period drama piece, which it's actually retelling a lot of our New Zealand history, New Zealand war stories, which you can tell that would require so much more, almost a team that will be overseeing all of those aspects. There's multiple roles. There's not only the reo that you will need attention, it's also the tikanga behind it, specific to the dialect of that rohe, specific to the kawa, the tikanga of that hapu. It's not just an overall, one fits all. And so that's basically when we start a project, that's what I usually look over straight away, is who are our connections to the iwi, and the level of care that will be required for that project, whether it may be up here or just minimal. But yeah, it can be a lot or very just kind of
light
organic.
Yeah, got it. You really did win the lottery about getting this job, right? So what I like about your story is that you can also do that. I think it's so important to tune in to the things that excite you. You don't have to understand what is exciting you, but if you're called or drawn to a particular project or a particular person or production company, really listen to that, because I often feel that pays dividends far greater than you can imagine when you first approach that entity. Wonderful. I've got 2 more questions, and then we're going to move to Q&A. For those here who have projects, maybe this is probably a Steve thing, but actually anybody can answer this. So many of us have written and directed, are writers, and we've got projects that we're peddling or we're writing with a team, and we want to take them out. We want to find producers. We want to find production companies. We want to find networks. It's often quite murky. Do we find a producer first, or do we get the network first, or do you find a production company? And what's the difference between a producer and a production company? Like, what are some of the pathways if someone is developing some work, how they could approach you or you guys, and how do you like to be approached with things like that, and how do you not like to be approached? I loved your idea of coming with a collection of work, as a collective. I think that's really interesting. But yeah, we'll start with you, Steve.
There used to be, I'm like 150 years old. So back when I started, there was a very clear progression of how things work, and now it's gotten all messy. Everybody's kind of entrepreneurial all the time, and you kind of have to be. It used to be a writer had an idea, they would take it to a producer who would then attach a director, and then they would go to a funding body or they might go to the platform, and then all of them together would go to a funding body, and they would make a thing, and they would go. And if you were, let's say, TVNZ that I used to work for, 20 years ago, you were one of 3 people that were getting all the money, and you knew what you were going to get every year. You could plan it out ahead of time. Now all of that money that used to go into the 3 platforms is going into 35 platforms, and all that money, actually 90% of it is going overseas into Facebook and Apple and Amazon, Netflix and Google. So everybody's kind of scrambling to get stuff done. But as frustrating as that might be, that's also an opportunity. Because, as Jani said, we have more filmmaking power in one of these than Orson Welles had to make Citizen Kane. So why aren't we? And the best thing you can do to go into somebody who's 15 steps above you on the career ladder is to take something to them that makes their job easier, whatever that is. Because we're all terrified all the time. Because nobody knows anything. Nobody knows what's really up, and there's millions of dollars on the line. So if you can show up there and give them the sense that, oh, these people really know what they're doing, this person or these people, then it's so much easier for them to go, great, let me give you some of my worry. I know you're going to take care of it. Awesome, let's do that. And usually when you see that, I'd love to hear how you guys feel about this, but usually when you find the people who have got a long, consistent career and doing really good work, it's not because they found someone who is 10 steps above them on the career ladder, it's because they have a group of friends that are about 2 steps above and below the career ladder. And when somebody gets a break, they bring everybody else. And when they get a break, they bring everybody else. And you find this thing that you're all kind of in the same place in your career and your skill set. You're all still learning. You'll never stop learning. I've been doing this for 35 years and I still make stuff that sucks. You gotta always be open to that and find the people that are kind of where you are right now and help everybody lift everybody. Did that answer your question?
That was brilliant, yeah.
Great.
Jani, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think I want to say, look, I've been working for a company that's been around for 30 years, and I think Taj, who was supposed to be here, but she's COVID, she is part of the development team too, so she probably would have even better answer than me. It's like, don't be upset if your idea gets rejected. I work for a company, as I said, 30 years. We have lots of ideas, and of course we think they are all absolutely amazing, and we get rejections all the time. So sometimes it's good, it's maybe not the right time for that, park it aside, and then just bring it back. You have to maybe tweak something, and then, it will be the right thing. also think, who is it for? Who is your audience? And I would say, like do your homework. So I work in factual and stuff. Have a look what's on the TV channels. So you can't just go, I have this idea, but then we kind of was like, well, where would it play? Is it prime time or is it not prime time? What day? So you kind of you should know what is like Monday, TV1. It's usually show like Dog Squad, Border Patrol, then you go, what's happening on the other channels, what's, 3, if we will have 3, what's on these channels, what is competing. So you can come and say, look, I have this great idea, I think it would sit beautifully Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, it's half an hour series. So kind of, know what's happening, where it's sitting. It makes it then much easier to then go to network and for funding and say, look, we have something exactly for this slot. Yeah, so that probably would be, my advice.
That's what Steve was saying. Do the thinking for us. Solve our problems in a way, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with both of those. Meeting in person is great, and then following it up with an email. Whether it's just your log line, your synopsis. I personally love it when you've got like a little pitch deck because I'm a very visual person, so I absolutely love it when people send me just their vision. It's so much easier for me and our team to kind of get what you're trying to achieve, and then we can have a look and see if we can bring something to the table, if we think it aligns with sort of our beliefs and values, with what we do at our company, and if we feel like it aligns, we try to get back to everyone within 2-week period. Just kind of depends on what time of the year it is, because if there's like film festivals going on, it will delay the process a little bit, and sometimes. Actually, a lot of the times it's at film festivals that we meet talents, writers, directors that we are even now working with at the moment. So, yeah, so many different ways, but vibe check.
What festivals do you go to?
Well, all of the ones in New Zealand,
okay, cool.
but yeah, overseas as well. Mm.
And the pitch decks. When you said little pitch decks, I always like size matters, right?
Yeah, just if it's like your
5 pages, 10 pages,
your first sort of approach. Anyway, like just like a 3-page, like a 5-page sort of kind of just that. I'm not going to look at a 40, 50-page pitch deck off of the first thing. It'll just be like very succinct, if you can.
Yeah, I've made that mistake before. 45 pages. Okay.
Just maybe add something too. Just like, when you are starting, you might have the great idea, but then getting funding, it's really hard for big companies like us. So maybe try to attach yourself to existing company that already has a name in the industry, and do it together as collaboration. I think it's really the way forward, collaborating in companies, and we have to secure funding. It is difficult for any funding body or the network to give money. Sometimes it's lots of money to somebody they don't know. And it might be a great idea, but then the question is, can you actually deliver the one episode, the series? It's different kettle of fish, all of that. So then maybe attaching yourself to production company that has good name, has good track record, it probably, it will flourish, and probably, your idea might happen. That probably would be, yeah.
On that point, like let's say you took something to Greenstone and they said no, which they're likely to do. You guys have to say no to 95% of what comes in.
Because it's just maybe not for us what
exactly
we do.
Right.
It kind of fits with what we like to make.
But now you're on their radar, so they might say yes to the 5th project that you take to them. The relationship matters more than each individual thing. Anytime you have a meeting with anybody that you want to work with, you're really selling yourself just as much as you're selling whatever that particular kaupapa is at the moment.
Yeah, that's very true. So I don't get attached to selling that project in the room in that moment. Build a relationship for the future. It's really a good reminder. Okay, shifting gears. I want to talk about confidence. With our creatives, this is the most discussed topic when they come to us, particularly if they've lost a job, they're out of work. Separate to the rejections and the difficultness of the industry, it can be just a real blow to your self-worth. And you can feel very disempowered. Additionally, I think a lot of our creatives feel disempowered because they can't make money from their art, right? It's very empowering when you get paid to work on your art, whatever form it is, but to be sort of slogging out years in, years out, doing some non-related jobs, you can really, it's tough, right? So I'm wondering if you can share times where you've had a low confidence moment, where you've had to pivot, where you've had to pick yourself up out of a dark spot, without getting too personal, but also just, I think that would be really helpful for many of us. Who wants to tackle that one first?
I'll
go for it, Steve.
I recently got laid off from the kind of job that my predecessor had the job for 15 years. And when I got the job, I thought that might be the job that I had until I died.
What was the
which
job?
was commissioning for TVNZ. And it's kind of a, people call it a gatekeeper job. I try to think of it as a doorman job, like I'm trying to open the door for you. And when I used to make jokes when I first got hired that I'm going to be there until they fire me. And I was told by several people who were in the business, no, this is a 10-year job. Once you're this, you are this. And that job went away. That job got folded into somebody else's job. And so I left it in November. And I had been in the job for 4 years, which is the longest jobby job I had had since I was working at Universal Studios in like 2005. So it'd been a minute of being freelance. And I had a few days of feeling pretty awful until I reminded myself that I've been freelance for most of my career, and this kind of industry is a freelance industry for almost all of us who work in it. And as soon as I was able to make that switch, that it was a gig. It was a gig that was really great and I loved it, but it was a gig. And as soon as I remember, I'm a gig worker and that gig's up, all right, on to the next gig. And like overnight, I went from being a grumpy Gus to just looking for the next gig. And because the big stakes, subjective outcomes, you're gonna lose more jobs than you get. You're gonna lose more opportunities than you get. So luck is just preparation meeting opportunity. All you can do is prepare. And when the opportunity is there, just jump at it.
Great, thank you. RickyLee.
Yeah, we were all very sad when we found out that Steve was leaving. We'd worked with Steve for many years, and so it was it was very sad for so many of our production companies and producers when we found that news out. But yeah, as pretty much everyone's aware, our industry is in a state at the moment. Yeah, to say the least. Yeah, I would probably go back to performing sort of days, chasing the contract after contract is tough. It's super tough. And sometimes things will flow and each contract will be lined up straight after the next one, and things are great. And a lot of the time, the money will be great and you'll feel like you're living on top of the world, and then there will come a time where you don't know how you're going to pay your bills the next month, and it is scary and you can get really, really down. But I mean, I don't know if you guys are into that whole manifestation thing, but I do really, when you get into those depths of I'm really in a rut at the moment, it's a mindset. It's a mindset. You got to flip it. You got to make sure that you're attracting what you want. And the moment that you turn that around, it's not to say that you can't feel sad and you can't feel those emotions. You absolutely should. But don't hold on to it. Let it flow through you, and make sure that you get back up and find your tribe, like find your people, because they are the people that will remind you of who you are. If you're a baddie, if you're a go-getter, they will remind you of those things, and you'll get back up. And I swear, if you put out what you want, it will come through in the weirdest ways possible. Great. Just keep going.
Kia ora.
Gosh, the lowest for my career. I think probably it was when I work as a production manager for many years and kind of, did produce at the company. And then I really wanted to produce fully. And so I went to my boss and sort of said what I want to do. And I was told that somebody told her that I'm not producing material. Wow. And that because I have daughter with, not in exact words, because I have daughter with disability, I won't be able to give it as much time as is required to be a producer. Wow.
That's gross.
Yes, wow. I was speechless. Well, look, I came home and I cried. And then I was swearing for quite a long time. There was lots of the F words and stuff. And I don't know, you just kind of, it was, and I wanted to quit my job. But my partner kindly reminded me that 1 week before Christmas, it's not great timing. Maybe sit on it and decide in the new year. And, well, luckily, the next year, kind of the whole management changed and we got amazing bosses. And, and I stuck with it, and I'm producing. And I have to say that luckily Greenstone, we have incredible management that is very, very supportive of its staff. We kind of have policy, we don't employ assholes. So we are very, very careful, when people come, sort of who we work with, and it's really, really supportive. It's incredibly supportive of women. It's not easy to be, woman and mother. We are juggling million jobs. So it's really supportive of that, and I'm really grateful for it. So, just stick to it. Don't listen to people who try to bring you down and stuff. They might be going through their stuff and they might be unhappy, but I think that was my lowest point, and I'm very happy that I kind of, stuck with it and just proved them wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Well done. I think being told you can't do something is, for people who are ambitious, it's like, hold my beer. I did want to ask a question about how you felt about the health of our industry at the moment, which is such a big question, but we are out of time. But if we do cover that in the Q&A, we'd like to know, because obviously it's really hard for those that have just graduated to go into the industry in this moment. We feel for you all. Okay, so now over to you. Noah, do we have a microphone? Okay, so for those of you who are asking questions, we are going to pass a mic to you. We ask that you say your first name and your field or discipline, and then ask your questions. We are short on time, so I'll just ask for everyone to refrain from saying thank you. We know that you thank our speakers for being here. Just jump into your question, all right? We'll give them a round of applause at the end. All right, raise your hands for questions. All right, first up.
Hi, I'm Jason.
Can you stand, please?
Oh, sorry.
Stand.
Oh,
stand.
Hi, I'm Jason. I wear many hats, but long term I want to be a writer and an actor. And Mary-Lyn very kindly suggested I watch Kid Sister. Great show. I genuinely thought it was hilarious. And I just wondered, I know that Simone kind of approached the studio. I know you're in Unscripted, so you may not know, but if you did know some of her story, how that kind of, her journey went, it'd be interesting to hear that. I'm
very, very, very sorry, but yeah, as you said, I'm factual, and so we are kind of same but different in the same building, but I think but Steve, you could.
That's why I might know a little bit about it.
Thank you.
Harriet, who's head of scripted at Greenstone, pitched it to me and to 3 and to Sky Originals, and I said, stop talking to them. Stop talking to them, because that was one where words on page absolutely sold the project. Simone originally was not attached to be the actress in it. She was just writing it. And she's a very, very funny writer, to such an extent that the even her action lines on the script let you know, hey, this is the tone that's going to come across in the thing. So they started with a pitch doc, like a 5-pager maybe, not a big one, just to sort of prime the pump. And then I started engaging with Harriet. I had a brief meeting with Simone, but mostly it was Harriet. That's usually how it works, is the platform works with the producer. I think Simone had been shopping it a little bit and might have taken it to a few places, because this was like the 3rd or 4th TV show that she had written on, but it would be her first one to create. I'm pretty sure she took it to Harriet and just pitched it to her, who then brought it in. They teamed up and then brought it into the network.
Cool. Other questions?
Hi, I'm Lucia. I am an aspiring podcast maker. I wanted to ask a question about pitching to potentially different companies, because I recently wrote a podcast pitch about sex education in New Zealand to RNZ, and I partly did that because my partner works at RNZ as an audio engineer, and so we talked about it together, and but my background is in sexuality and gender kind of themes. So we pitched it with a RFP, a request for proposals. It didn't get greenlit, but it got really great feedback, and I heard through the grapevine it got into like the top 8 or something out of about 145.
Great.
So it was so cool for someone who's never made a podcast. But didn't get greenlit. I also have some connections to people at the spin-off, and I'm going to go get coffee with one woman at the spin-off just to chat about her career in general. But I also said I have this podcast pitch, and then she said, I'll get you in touch with the head of podcasts. And I was like, do you want to see the pitch? And she's like, yeah, you can send it over. But I was like, I'll just do a few things on it. And my thought is, like, should I show it to her? And I think probably the answer is yes. But, like, I fear that someone's going to read it and go, awesome, we're not going to greenlight you, but 6 months later or a year later, you're going to see your ideas being made. Like, how do you navigate, like, keeping your own ideas to yourself, and then when to share them with people? When is it good to share, when is it not? Well, it's long-winded, but...
You're looking at me.
I have a stock answer to this. Outright theft is so much rarer than you think it is. Because if someone wants the project, they don't want the idea. You can't copyright an idea. All you can copyright is the fixed articulation of an idea in fixed form. And for that, they would want your voice. That's what you're really selling. You're not selling the idea. You're selling what would this idea be through your voice. And if anything, this is a little bit cynical, but if anything, they'd buy it from you and then fire you, you know? But just how a lot of people get into this business is their first couple of deals are they get paid for something that they get fired from, but that's how you get known and you start rolling with it, you know? But the real thing that again, it's relationships, and the thing that you're selling is you. The thing you're selling is not the project. The project is how people come to understand you and how you think and what you think about the world and what you think people should be thinking. And so there's really no reason not to let people see the things that interest you that you think you can bring out to the world, because if people want it, they're going to want your version of that thing, not the generic whatever it is.
I guess, yeah, for me, I feel like there's this fear of like, love the idea. We want a host that we already have who's kind of got a bit of clout and they already know how to do stuff. And I'm like, okay, but like, I want to. Like,
that's actually a legitimate thing. It might happen, but that's for you to think about. Usually think about it ahead of time. Of whenever you're going into negotiations, think about the thing that would be outstanding and more than you ever expect. Think the thing that would be sort of reasonable, and the thing that is the walk away for you. What is the thing that would make you walk away? And if you not being the host is the walk away, okay, great. Figure that out ahead of time. So you're not trying to figure it out when an offer is made, which is you walking away. Figure your comfort level ahead of time. And if you walking away is not going to be the thing, then great. You know that that's your walk away. But it doesn't stop you from going and seeing if they make an offer.
Great.
oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lucia. Other questions?
Hi guys, I'm Greg. So I am an aspiring camera operator. I've probably for the last 4 years tried to get myself into the industry by doing filming for advertising. So running my own agency for that. I've kind of got myself into this sort of a rut where there's a lot of the stuff that I'm producing is social media content. So it's not from a quality perspective, but it's the format where it's getting delivered. So in trying to transition into film, I'm just finding it a bit hard. I've got this massive portfolio, which is basically TikTok reels, you know. So just some sort of, if you were in my shoes, what would be the first step for you guys if you were to take that transition?
Yeah, maybe I will. Look, as we said before, you know, we work with people we like to work with. So I know that on my projects I will have camera operators I've been working with over years, but they get better and better, and obviously then they want to do better projects. They go, I don't want to do Border Patrol anymore, I would like to do documentaries, or I want to do this, I want to do big format shows, and that's great. And so then I'm kind of goes like, okay, so I need somebody sort of who was at their level. And so sometimes, it depends on the number of projects, we email South Seas, and we go, look, do you have somebody that pops to mind? This is what we are looking for. Do you have anybody sort of, and they might maybe finish 2 years ago, but quite often students keep in touch, and they keep eye on what they are doing, and so they flick us few names, and then, send, get in touch, say this is what I would like to do. I understand, it doesn't happen all the time, but they will come and we go, okay, I need usually like five guys that I can rotate on a show, and so we need some new people, we give them a chance. And so what we would then do, we would send you to shadow, like the guys who has been doing it for some time, so you know how it works, and you go, oh, actually I can do it, or you might freak out. It just depends. Sometimes, honestly, as I said, on these shows, it is really, really hard because you have to do more than just camera, but it's infactual, right? So, and then you just shadow, and then we kind of throw you into the deep end. We let you go, and we, let you film with the agencies, and then your footage comes back, and then we kind of, you go, okay, let's go, and let's watch it together, and we sort of try to give you feedback and say, can you do more this? Look, we were doing this kind of didn't work, and we kind of work with the people who are new and trying to basically like teach them, give them sort of, feedback back, and they improve pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it works, in factual with me.
So it's kind of just right place, right time.
We said we will touch base on the state of our industry at the moment. Which is, and like for everyone, so it is, not the easiest time, but look, I believe, try to be optimistic. We go through this, like all the time, through these waves. I think we are kind of deep dive at the moment, but I'm sure it will come up again. I would say maybe, in a year and stuff, we will be in much better position once the industry figures out where we at.
I'll stick to my TikTok reels for a bit longer then, eh?
Well, I mean, if I was you, I'd put them together, to be honest, instead of individual links to individual. Yeah.
One of the things you might consider, because it's really a branding problem, and so if you're trying to say, hey, look, I do other things on TikTok, it might be in your best interest to create something that you're not getting paid for, but go, like grab, the Chillbox guys, they're mostly commercials and stuff, but they made a feature film with Tom Sainsbury last year, and now they're working on 3 other feature films. Yeah. And so like I have a friend who lives north of Mary-Lyn, and I are friends with a guy who lives north of here. And I wanted to do a scene, and I wrote a scene that I think might work on screen. I'm not sure. So I'm going to work with the Chillbox guys and this actor friend of ours to put it on screen to check it out. And if it turns out to be good, then it's now part of all of our reels. And if it turns out to be bad, then no one ever has to see the thing, which is great. So, grab some friends and make some.
Yeah, short films are great for that. Not just for directors and writers and actors, but for camera operators. At least you have, a body of work.
Yeah. If we don't sorry if I can just do networking, you want to do this, so there is so many people who want to make short films, and they are writers and they have ideas, and they are looking for crew. And they all do it in their free time, for free, but it's great experience. Yeah. As we said, you might find like-minded people that you are sort of like, this is what we are doing, the same, and then you can kind of go on a journey together. Yeah.
Pretty much everyone does short films for free.
Absolutely.
I did, and it helps.
I still do. I feel like working for free is kind of part of the game. It goes back to communication, right? You just let everybody not just one entity, everybody you're interested in doing narrative film or whatever the thing is. Just keep talking about it. You have incredible skills from making an experience from TikTok. Sell those, and people pivot all the time. We're seeing it all the time. People break into the industry late in their career, early in their career, pivot. It can be done. It's all about how you communicate it and your mindset. So the power is in your hands. If there's not another question, I might talk about the state of the industry, but if someone has a burning question, raise your hand. Yes.
Hello, I'm Tremaine, I'm a writer, And I did a test script for Shortland Street, and my best friend and I are both in the industry. He, unfortunately, was one of the people who lost their jobs at Warner Brothers. So I'm trying to just wondering if there are any other pathways that you know of for screenwriters to find work other than Shortland Street.
Shorty, yeah.
Can I just have you answer this question so that we can...
Sure, because we're
on
running
time.
Back in the day, there would have been Shorty and Power Rangers and maybe a couple other things that you could go and work on a TV show. Like in the American system, if you get hired on a TV show, that's 3 to 9 months of work, and here it's 3 days, which is real tough to start building up a thing. And I'm not saying that to discourage you, I just don't want you to hit your head against the wall. I want to show you where the door is. And the door is to find some people who have similar tastes to you, but don't know how to write, because I think a lot of people think they know how to write and they kind of don't. And it's not just words on page, it's designing narratives, designing characters and stuff like that. Find some people who know, there's a dude over here who wants to do stuff and he knows how to do camera shit. So, find some people, 30 years ago, people knew how to read, and now they don't want to. And so if you can show people a 2-minute scene or something like that, that really sells snappy dialogue and interesting characters and a couple of surprises, that'll get you into rooms. And then that sort of thing might help you get to the place where you get to create the show. And you're one of the creator partners, who then gets to go and hire people to help you figure out how the show goes from there. So make a little thing that then hopefully lets you make a big thing with partners.
And keep writing. Join a writers group,
Absolutely.
Keep writing. Join Auckland Table Reads.
Come to ATR, man.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's an amazing community, and those writers are getting better and better and better. Auckland Table Reads. Google it. Excellent. All right. State of our industry. I know, it's a bummer. But what's ahead for this next year for those of us who are looking for jobs and opportunities? Who wants to start? Steve, you're nodding your head. I'm going to throw it.
I feel like I'm dominating the conversation. Sorry, guys. It's a tough time, but it's never easy time. Like every time, I've been working professional since the 1990s. And in hindsight, the 90s were awesome because there was a thing called DVDs. Oh man, you could make a lot of money with making crap. And nowadays, audiences are way more sophisticated and it's harder to get stuff in front of them because it's so easy to make stuff that finance in the front and then distribution in the back are where the real bottlenecks are right now. Luckily, we live in a country here where the government gives people money to make art, which is fantastic. And they're not giving as much as they should, but they still are doing it. I come from a place where the government doesn't do that. So apply for everything, all of it, all the time. Assume you're not gonna get any of it, but applying for it, it makes you clear on what it is that you wanna make in the first place. A lot of times until you have to write it down, you're not really sure about it. And the clearer you are in your own head, the better it's gonna be by the time you actually go and make the thing. So apply for everything all the time. When you get something awesome, make the best you can out of that. Don't assume you're gonna get anything, just apply. And we're in a situation now that's not our fault. I've worked in the American studio, American indie, Chinese, and New Zealand film and television systems, and New Zealanders are the most talented people I've ever worked with. Because for decades, you've had to make do with not enough budget. And you number 8 wire the shit out of it, and just keep doing that. We're in a number 6 wire time right now. We're going to get back up to number 8s pretty soon, but in the meantime, don't let it get in your way. You go out, and make stuff, make stuff, and if you make stuff and if you make audiences feel things, someone's going to pay you to make stuff for them.
What I love about what you just said is it circles back to what you said at the beginning about the kind of job your mate had, where it was a sort of easy, cruisy job, and then creating at night. So in an economy like this, find a job that doesn't cinch your energy, that leaves you with energy to create. And there's people in this room that you can make work with. There's no reason you couldn't forward your career while we're going through this difficult phase. Thank you, Steve. RickyLee, State of the Nation.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy, it's wild. But did you guys see that TikTok video of that lady who talked about how she married someone that she didn't know their whole entire marriage. Anyway, she did a 50-part something TikTok sort of reels, and she ended up signing to a big, huge platform of that. So there's really, what we keep saying about there's really no excuse for you to not be able to be creative with your vision, with what you want to tell. There are so many opportunities, and I go back to the guilds as well. There are a lot of, I know Ngā Aho Whakaari just recently did a pitch, ran a pitch sort of session where you could just sign up right then and there if you had an idea. You had 3 minutes to pitch your idea, and then you either got it or you didn't. It was right there. It was 2.5K. It's not much, but it's something to help you get on your merry way. And also you get on the radar. Like if you're getting a decline from people, yeah, maybe a decline, but you're on the radar. You just keep going and you keep going until you get a green light.
And these applications actually put those who keep reapplying and developing their work and bettering their work and taking the notes, they get looked at more and more as the more passes that you make. So don't quit on that first rejection. What they're looking for is your commitment. And sometimes it will take 10 times.
And one other thing that I will add is when you apply to like these RFP things that people are applying to, sometimes platforms, like broadcasters, they do sometimes try and match you up with people that they think that, like, say, so you're a writer-director, you've got an idea, it may not have been greenlit that time, but they know a producer who does that type of mahi, and they'll either email the producer and say, hey, I know there's this talent, this is their idea, do you think does that align? And then they'll tee up some sort of like this. So there's so many different ways. There's not one way. There's not a right way. Yeah. It's just whatever way works for you.
Be proactive and learn how to hustle, even if it's outside of your comfort zone. The more you do it, the less it's outside of your comfort zone. Final remarks on State of the Nation, Jani?
Yeah, I want to end sort of on a positive note. I mean, look, every industry at the moment is going through tough times. It's not like our industry. I think for me, maybe on a positive note is, look, people always want content, and I believe, because we want local content, we want our local stories, and it's really important to, tell them. And so I think there will be always demand sort of for the work you want to do. Bring your experience and everything into it, and just create local stories for local people, about real people. It goes for drama, just even like for factual. Yeah, I think so. There will be always demand, whatever platform it is on.
Yeah, knowing your audience.
Yeah, knowing your audience. Keep creating. I love it.